I played an ungodly amount of Halo 3, so much so that I'm glad it was released in an era where hour tracking wasn't a thing. It dominated my playtime through the entirety of high school, and even beyond. 5 years spent running scrims for my game battles team, trying to hit the elusive 50 in SWAT and MLG, and playing the most banana custom maps with huge groups of friends. Halo 3 was one of the most played multiplayer games by everyone in its heyday. But all good things come to an end, and a new era of competitive multiplayer juggernauts took its place, with one of the new kings being Valorant. What a fucking disappointment. Now, before I get into ripping this game apart, I'd like to start by saying I've played thousands of hours of this game, with my current peak rank being Ascendant 2. So I am going into this video with a lot of playtime and a lot of knowledge about how the game works. And we'll occasionally touch on the things I do like. We're going to start with some bigger picture stuff before we get down to the nitty gritty. An information dump of some cut and dry comparisons that make me sad for the state of multiplayer games. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
EA Sports.
Not
In the game.
Halo 3 launched in 2007 for $69.99 Canadian. Valorant launched in 2020 for free. However, it is important to note the average person spends about $30 a season on the predatory skins, making it pricier than Halo. Whether it's a choice or not for people to buy those skins, Riot is receiving that money, and that's important when we get into Valorant's shortcomings. Let's start off by looking at each game's main menus to see what they have to offer. On Halos, we start with Campaign, a full 8-hour quintessential gaming experience with incredible music, cutscenes, lovable characters, and sound replayability in its own right. Followed up by matchmaking, where all the multiplayer goodness happens. Custom games for playing homemade game modes. Forge for building your own maps. And Theater for watching your played games and clipping the parts you like. Now on Valorant's main menu, we have Play, where all the multiplayer goodness happens. Premiere, where you can form a team to play competitively. Career, to look at stats from your previous matches. Battle Pass, to pay money to Riot for ugly skins. Collection, to look at all the ugly skins you paid money for. Agents, to look at all the characters you possibly paid money for. Esports, which is just a schedule for when pro teams play. And Store, to pay money to Riot for ugly skins. Including these little fuckers up top, there are 4 buttons that lead to a screen where you input your credit card. Now that we've seen them both, let's do a little compare and contrast, shall we? We already know the campaign for Halo is magnificent, and will go down in gaming history as one of the best there is. Whereas Valorant doesn't have a campaign. The best we get are these character/story cutscenes, while nicely animated mind you, really just serve to keep people hanging on by a thread for any semblance of story or character development. They also use these cutscenes as an opportunity to queerbait their audience by making their characters gay to make it seem like they care about queer rights, while in reality doing little to nothing to stop the rampant bullying and homophobia in-game. Now you may say, well, Valorant is free, so why would there be a campaign? And I would agree if this was an indie studio. But this is Riot, who made $40 million off of just champion skins last year. Mainly used to line the CEO's pockets, instead of making what could be a really great campaign, and a way to bring out more personality in their cast of characters. Now that the campaign's out of the way, let's go on to the next slot, the multiplayer modes. Halo 3 has the classics, Team Slayer, FFA, Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, but adds some unique modes like multi-team, and the epitome of great new game modes, Oddball. This mode was even used in the competitive scene because of how good it was. You have to hold the skull to get points, leaving you essentially down a player, making the aggressive pushes to reclaim the ball easier and leading to a great ebb and flow to the game. You can even drop the ball off the edge when you're pinched to have it reset to the middle of the map. On top of all those, we have shoddy snipers, SWAT, which is one headshot to kill, sound familiar? Big team battle, Infection, the list goes on and on. Not only did they hit a checkbox on all the classic game modes, they invented some of the most fun, unique modes in multiplayer history. Now on to Valorant, which didn't add Team Deathmatch into the game until last summer, a game mode that's been around since Tupac was a non-hologram real version of himself. Let's see what game modes they have going on. So you have Unrated, the bread and butter, 1st to 13 CSGO style game mode. Then you have Competitive, which is essentially unrated with a shiny emblem attached to winning, and slightly more slurs being thrown your way. Swift Play, which is a 1st to 5, much quicker game mode, but with the same rules as the former two. Spike Rush, which is first to 4 rounds, ooh spicy, but adds some ability orbs on the map that are just other characters' abilities, except the golden gun from GoldenEye is there? Deathmatch, which everyone uses to warm up to play competitive. No economy rules apply, buy whatever gun you want. Escalation, which is just gun game, but with teams. Team Deathmatch, another warm-up simulator where you respawn and shoot the other team to get the most kills. And Premiere, which is where you can build a team to play literally just competitive, but with Halo 3 style team logos. This is an embarrassing selection of game modes, none of which are interesting enough to be played unless you need a breather from the toxicity of competitive. Riot is too lazy or too busy counting your money to come up with any interesting game modes, and it shows. Next up, we have custom games and Forge. I'm talking about these two together as they work very much in synergy with one another. I spent almost an equal amount of time in custom games in Halo 3 as I did playing competitively. That's how good it was. Players had an insane range of customization options, allowing them to create the most bonkers, only in Halo experiences. Paired with the Forge mode, which let you customize any of the maps with a ton of different items to place, you could make your own game mode and map unlike anything else in the game. You had stuff like Cops and Robbers, Ice Cream Man, Duck Hunt, Jenga, Griffball, which made its way into the main matchmaking system, and so many more. This would be astounding for 2024, but remember, Halo 3 came out almost 20 years ago now. It was revolutionary for its time. Meanwhile, Valorant obviously does not have a map maker, and its settings for custom games can be counted on one hand, leaving room for no creativity when it comes to custom lobbies. It's so bad the community is forced to scrape the bottom of the barrel and come up with these laughable custom game ideas, which really only serve to be used for one-off YouTube videos and not to actually be played with friends for countless hours. With how simply designed the maps are in Valorant, I could see a map maker being something that would be quite fun to mess around with. However, I'd put my money on it being something we will never see. Finally, we have Theater Mode, where in Halo you can watch your matches back while moving the camera to anywhere you want to set up cinematic shots or even record skits. Valorant, again, is lacking such a seemingly basic feature. I do understand programs exist outside of Valorant now to do that for you, but allowing a free cam for replays in-game would really help to better check out mistakes you've made and benefit non-PC players who don't have access to something like OBS. In summation, Valorant doesn't really have any notable main menu options that Halo doesn't. The supplementary game modes are severely lacking in this game. Seems like you learn to love the 6 game modes that play nearly identically, or you stop playing because the custom lobbies are not where the party's at.
If it's not fun, why bother?
Now we can talk about the gameplay itself and the things that influence the gameplay. What it's like once you jump into a competitive match or a swift play, and how it differs from Halo on a moment-to-moment basis. Halo 3, after all DLCs, has 24 maps, with some of the most iconic maps in multiplayer history. Guardian, The Pit, Narrows. All these maps are incredibly varied with an underappreciated level of verticality to them. From map to map, you go from lush forest engulfing the Forerunner structures that have been there for millennia, to the deep purples and alien technology of a Covenant battleship. Not to mention the variety of map size to accommodate the bigger lobbies of players. In Valorant, there is currently 14 playable maps, and they are getting worse and worse with each edition. Initially, you had some cool ideas. Teleporters on Bind for quick rotates. Ropes on Fracture for sneaky but risky flanks. Doors on Ascension to cut off a defender's angle. But those interesting ideas have grinded to a halt with the recent map releases. Pearl has nothing interesting of note besides a really long empty pathway on B-side and a cubbyhole to squat through that someone seems to always be watching. Lotus has these janky doors that are loud as hell and really awkward to maneuver around, not offering anything interesting to enhance the way the game is played. Sunset is just really small, with one closable door like on Ascent, while Abyss adds the ability to fall off the map, and people are freaking out about it. But I actually think this is somewhat interesting, as it adds some extra needed caution on site flooding. When it comes to the look of the maps, they leave a lot to be desired, with them swapping color palettes but not design ethos, so you end up with a very samey looking wood and metal with not an ounce of character baked into the walls. Instead of releasing new maps more often, they rework ones that already exist, then add them back in, often worse than before. Breeze was reworked and then quickly removed to be reworked again because of how bad the change was. And this comes down to Riot's clear lack of QA testing on any of their maps. Maps are released full of bugs and glitches, That if you exploit, it's your fault for glitching off the map, and not Riot's for making sure it wasn't in the game in the first place. Even smaller exploits like throwing these unbreakable KJ mollies or this draft crouch jump with Jet were banned by Riot in competitive and caused teams to lose rounds or be disqualified in pro play. Either stop taking months to remove these exploits or allow them to be used to add another layer of technicality to play. This is Halo's approach. Many of the jumps that weren't planned to be in the game were still allowed to be used by the pro players, because they required skill to do and made games more fun to watch. But Riot doesn't like fun in their maps, just rigid metal boxes constructed with no love. It seems I'm not the only one who has a disdain for most of the maps in this game, as people will literally dodge queues to avoid certain maps, and pro players only talk about the maps to decide which one they hate the most.
Wow, this map is so unbearable. Yes, Riot, let's add halls back in, yes! We have $1 billion trillion and no fucking idea what we're doing. Let's fucking go, man.
I actually don't mind
Icebox?
giveaway.
Icebox is the worst map ever like made, almost in like FPS existence, but easily in Valorant. Pearl's pretty bad too.
I hate this map. But you know what? I actually like it more than I like Split. I know that's gonna shock some people, but Split was way too unbalanced, and people would just like camp with shotguns and shit.
Halo 3 has 19 weapons, and the diversity goes hard. You have the Queen of the Sting in the Energy Sword, lunge 10 feet and slice them down in one hit. The Needler tracks your enemy, and if you hit them with enough needles, explodes them into a purple haze. The Brute Shots flipping vehicles and slowing enemies. The Gravity Hammer to launch your foes into the stratosphere, and even redirect rockets. Now obviously some of these weapons can be attributed to previous games, but Halo 3 really refined some of them, and added new bangers like the Spartan Laser, Grav Hammer, and Spike Grenade. Even the competitive mode kept a good variety of weapons with stuff like the Mauler, Rocket Launcher, and Carbine making their way into the hardcore scene. On top of those weapons, you have Camouflage and Overshield. These are placed on many of the maps, turning their spawn points into bloodbaths, as the advantage these power-ups give are highly sought after. And we're not done. You still have throwables like the Bubble Shield to stop bullets, the Grav Lift to reach new vantage points, or the Power Drain to disable vehicles and drain shields. Add all that flavor to one multiplayer soup, and you know we're cooking something fierce. There are 17 different weapons in Valorant, but the variety in weapons is severely lacking, ranging from shotgun, to rifle, to sniper. All coated with this incredibly boring matte black coloring, because all the shiny aesthetics are saved for the egregiously priced skins. I will say, the community has found a way to make pretty much every gun, except the Ares, competitively viable. That is before Riot nerfs all the fun out of them like they did with the Bucky, and the Shorty, and the Judge. No shotguns allowed in Valorant anymore. Riot has a massive problem with nerfing fun things. Where Valorant does get its variety and fun ideas is in its character abilities. Some highlights are Raise Blast Packs, Viper Ult, Neon Dash, and Astra Pull. This is where Valorant is at its peak in creativity, when it's not copying Overwatch's homework. I particularly love Gecko's whole kit, and having the little guy be able to plant and defuse the spike for you was some unexpected weirdness that I am all for. But here comes Big Brother Riot again to nerf all your favorite agents so they are less fun to play. Obviously sometimes things are far too overpowered and need to be nerfed, like Jet's knives at the beginning of the game. But to remove her second updraft and make her smokes last as long as a cloud of vape smoke is insane. Riot has been doing better lately to buff over nerf, and I hope that's a trend that continues, because I always think that's the best idea, unless the characters are broken. Side note, did you know you used to be able to give Cypher's camera a gun to shoot enemies with? That shit's so cool, so I understand why they'd remove it. Halo 3 was one of the last big competitive games to not have a sprint. After the success of Call of Duty, everyone, including Halo, started adding a sprint button, and for me, this killed my love for the franchise. Halo 3 was methodical, but still quick. People would time the respawn of power weapons to make sure they got it for the advantage. There was typically 2 snipers on competitive maps, allowing each team to have a member hang back and watch flanks and pick heads. The variety of game modes in competitive made you have to change your tactics, and made players who maybe didn't frag out as much as the rest of the team be vital members if they were good at playing the objective. But one of the biggest differences between Halo 3 and Valorant when it comes to gameplay is the time to kill. In Halo 3, you could peek a corner with an advantage and still lose the gunfight if the other player is skilled enough. The BR was the main weapon in Halo 3 competitive, and it would take 4 bursts to kill an enemy if the final shot was a headshot, leading to players lowering their heads to make it around a corner, crouch jumping in the air to try and dodge headshots, and strafing back and forth to try and lead the opponent into aiming where they weren't. Valorant, like Halo, has no sprint outside of some character abilities, but has an even shorter time to kill than the game it imitates. Most gunfights in this game end with 1 headshot. The Vandal, anywhere on the map, takes 1 headshot to take your opponent out. With a game with so many corners, this leads to a lot of gunfights being lost simply by mistiming a look in the wrong direction, or a peek at the right time, in other words, luck. Luck is a massive part of Valorant, especially due to the most insane change from CSGO, random spray patterns. This leads to so many lucky one-tap headshots from sprays, accidental kills through the smokes, or even running, which is supposed to make your spray pattern much bigger, but since it only takes 1 headshot to kill, still leads to many frustrating deaths. Combining random spray patterns with 1 shot to kill makes a lot of perfectly thrown utility useless. You could throw the best flash or stun and still end up on the other side of clips like this.
Through will connect onto Leaf. Still work to be done. Poster has gotten it to half. There's the flash. There's the swing. Chronicle gets all 3.
Aggression by DRX though. That's a stun and a dash from Buzz to try and play off.
Yo, okay, the crosser has to go. We need to buff that stun. Did you guys just see that?
Getting away.
Did we just see
Spray
that?
Treasure one fully stunned onto 2. Yeah, it's definitely a day of
Dude, the
first, mate.
stun
I mean,
is
I've never seen
useless.
anything like
Then on top of that, you still have to worry about Peeker's advantage, which is the person peeking you sees you a tiny bit before you do, just due to the milliseconds they register on your screen before you do. With 1 headshot, milliseconds matter, so even when you're in the right position, holding a good angle, you lose because of this advantage. Another huge downside to Valorant is the rate of play. The average Valorant match is 30 to 40 minutes. Halo 3, 5 to 7. Making matches grueling, especially when you're getting destroyed and your team won't surrender. It wouldn't be so bad if half your time wasn't spent waiting or dead watching someone else play the game. Elimination-based competitive games have gotten a lot more popular since modes like Search and Destroy and Battle Royales. Developers know nothing gets the blood pumping like being the last one alive and clutching around with 3 opponents left. But they use that high against you, hoping you'll ignore the other 20 minutes spent buying guns, setting up all your util, only to be killed by a random headshot through a smoke. This becomes increasingly frustrating when full-grown men have a temper tantrum and throw from round 3, forcing you to play a 5v4 for another half an hour. Because again, your team won't surrender, and it requires all 5 of you to agree to it. Hey, at least while I'm waiting for rounds to start and my teammates to die, I can fit in a couple games of Halo.
I mean, go hard and go ugly, and then you won't have to worry about other people biting your style.
After watching Valorant pros during the most recent tournament shill out these $32 pistol skins, basically begging their fans to buy them, I had to make this a part in this video. Just because there are no loot boxes doesn't mean these skins aren't insanely predatory towards kids playing this game. Not allowing players to buy the skins they want at any time, and forcing a time limit on rare skins, makes them feel like they are needed at that moment or you'll miss out. There is a night market where skins are discounted and only available for a week, reinstating the get it while you can mentality of the system. Skins can be $20 a piece to $100 for a bundle of lackluster paint jobs. Do you know how little time and money it takes Riot to implement these skins? I have not bought a single skin in Valorant and never will. In Halo 3, all cosmetics were unlockable, and a lot of times you had to do cool shit or tough challenges to acquire them. Playing through the campaign and frantically searching for all the skulls to get the Hayabusa armor made it feel so rewarding to use in multiplayer. Being able to flaunt what you had to go through to others or bond with those who did the same. In Valorant, you just whip out your mom's credit card and buy that testicle dragon for $20 when it pops up in your market. I will sing their praises for the aquarium skin bundle, and I do love me a Nerf skin, but honestly there hasn't been anything other than that has piqued my interest. No worthy cosmetics are earned in Valorant. Those of us who don't want to drop a paycheck on skins are relegated to gun buddies, banners, and skins that look like they were pulled from an AI wallpaper generator. Making the free stuff bad sends loads of people to the store page to check out what's there. And this is where we have millions of people wasting money on subpar skins, reinforcing that they can get away with these ridiculous prices. For one skin in Valorant, you could buy Hollow Knight, a full game and one of the best Metroidvanias of all time. Think about that the next time you go to buy a skin, and buy Hollow Knight instead. Halo 3 also had recon armor, an armor set only unlockable by befriending a developer, becoming a pro, or doing something cool to gain some notoriety in the community. Valorant has a similar cosmetic, but it's just a tiny keychain that sits on your gun to let people know you're a narc and support Riot's garbage practices. There is also a sorry lack of character skins in Valorant, something I might actually pay money for. But we know how much more effort that would require, so I guess we'll just enjoy our edgy Vandal skins for the rest of eternity. Now, I'm not going to get on a pedestal and defend the Halo community as a beacon of respect and manners. It was quite toxic when I played, and I contributed to that toxicity, playing through the heydays of 14 and 15, spewing vitriol into my OG Xbox 360 mic that looks like it was made by and for the Backstreet Boys. But Valorant's community takes on another level of nasty. Studies have Valorant at the top of the charts for the most toxic community. It's so bad, there are websites where you can find non-toxic players to play with, which is just sad. People are often dropping slurs in text chat because they know at worst they will get banned from chatting, instead of from the game, because God forbid Riot lose any players by banning homophobes. Voice chat is even worse than text chat, and if you defend yourself or talk back, there goes your elo, as those Andrew Tate-loving smooth-brained homunculi smoke you off or team flash you like I've mentioned before. My current favorite pro player, tied with Boaster of course, is Fluorescent, a trans woman playing for Shopify Rebellion in Valorant's Game Changers League, and someone who is 100% better than a portion of the players in VCT. Every single YouTube montage and TikTok clip of her has multiple people there just to misgender her. The toxicity isn't just leveled at the queer community. I swear, every time my partner speaks in game, someone has to say something slightly uncomfortable.
Hello.
Being a woman and playing this game gives you a 1 in 4 chance of having an awful comment thrown your way. Kaide, a popular Valorant streamer, and partner to Pro Player 10s, gets constant hate on her posts for simply calling out bad behavior, or raging over the same game they do. Like, good job guys, you really showed that recent cancer survivor what's what. This kind of behavior is pathetic, and Riot can do more to stop this toxic behavior, at least in game, but refuses to. Luckily, most of the pro players and streamers don't echo the hatred of the rest of the community, at least when live in front of the camera. But what they do promote is a lot of trash talking and massive egos. Halo pros were sort of an enigmatic figure. You saw them during their games, but besides the odd interview here and there, they didn't represent the Halo community with their voices. But every Valorant pro has a blue yeti and a god complex, and is ready to talk shit to children because they are good at one video game. Side note, why are all these fucking meatheads always shirtless when they stream this game? I ain't trying to see all that. Learn some modesty and put on a turtleneck. I'd also love to see these boys attempt any game that's not an FPS. Go beat Hades on Heat 64, or better yet, just the first level of Mario 64, then come talk to me. Now the ego and shit talking isn't really that big of a problem, it's just fun to laugh at. But one thing these YouTubers and streamers promote that is a big problem is smurfing. Sheriff Smurf to Radiant. I put a Radiant Smurf in gold. These guys are more obsessed with Smurfs than Gargamel. And it trickles down to the rest of the community. So much so that every lower elo match I've watched my partner play has someone dropping 30 kills on what is probably a Smurf account. Again, Riot, what are you doing? Punish these bozos. Your rank system is a mess. Speaking on Riot's ranking system quickly, it's garbage. Why do we reset our ranks every, 3 months? Did you see what I got?
Yeah, fucking plat 3.
This game fucking sucks. I'll tell you why, because Big Brother Riot wants to keep you playing to have to earn back the rank you already had. This becomes even more laborious when you take into account everyone else who was Ascendant the season before also got sent back to Platinum. So you're not even playing against Platinum players having an easy time getting your proper rank back. You're playing against other Ascendants in the same position as you, which keeps you in elo hell until the next season starts and the cycle continues. Meanwhile, Radiant Smurfs are also stomping their way through our elo and tearing through my RR for some likes on YouTube. Riot really has no countermeasures for throwers or smurfers. Without thriving custom game lobbies like Halo had, or fun laid-back multiplayer modes, the sense of community isn't really present in Valorant, as everyone takes the personality of their favorite pro player and shit-talks the enemy team and their own team equally.
We need to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Francine. Happy birthday.
So let's end this video by addressing the big question I'm sure a lot of you are asking by now. Why not play a different multiplayer game? Why not play Halo Infinite? Well, because a lot of the issues I addressed aren't just a Valorant problem. They're a problem with every multiplayer game now. which are all run by CEOs stained to the bone with greed and not by people who love to make games. Halo Infinite has adopted the same season formula with battle passes and a focus on cosmetic sales over improving the game. Overwatch 2 failed miserably, canceling plans for single-player content and adding so little to the game, calling it a sequel feels like blasphemy. I'm not sure we will ever get back to the level of competitive multiplayer games we had in the past, with tons of game modes, customization, and a full campaign. But we will get that passion and love for the games created through indie games. Competitive multiplayer indies are always a huge risk due to player bases routinely falling off and killing the game. But the creativity they bring is always unbelievable, and we can help keep them alive. If you like Smash Bros, but hate how Nintendo does nothing to keep the competitive scene going and actively destroys the community, play Rivals 2. If you like CSGO or Valorant, but hate everything about the way they are run like me, play Havoc. Or check out something a little funkier, like Friends vs. Friends. There are always good multiplayer games coming out, so give them a try. And I'll take my own advice and close Valorant for good. Hey, what are you doing? Come on, man, we just talked about this. We just made a fucking 30-minute video trash-talking this game. You can't play it again.
Sorry, I can't stop.
Who's got the snacks? Satchel up. Satchel up.